This is the last job that I've got to do now for my exhibition on the 28th of this month, and I have 27 paintings finished and framed, and they're ready for hanging now at the gallery. So I won't show them to you at the moment. I'd like the visitors to the gallery to see them first, you know, because we're having a big opening preview as well, you know. So, but I'll put a post up after so you can have a look at, you know. And I've been criticised for talking too much on my previous posts, you know, and not doing enough demonstrating. To be honest with you, I find it hard to paint and talk at the same time, and I can't talk and paint now because I'm going at a critical stage now, you know. But anyway, I'll try and put it right and get on with it. And this is two lessons combined now, right? It's about lighting and the final glazing. To try and explain to you first, how I first found out about the glazing was I was doing a sign a long time ago, and I made a mistake on the sign, and I'd already varnished the sign all over, and a customer came along and told me that I left something off by accident, and I painted it on, and a strange thing happened. It looked a lot brighter than what was under the varnish. Well, it would do because the varnish discolours it a bit, but so I thought if I varnished the whole thing all over, it would put it right, but it didn't. And so I painted it all the lettering again to get it to look the same, and I varnished it all again, and I noticed that it was really glowing. It's because the light gets under the varnish and like creates like a light box and illuminates the coats on the top, and it's quite an amazing thing happens, you know. So I'll try and do a little demonstration here to try and explain this to you. So if you've got a canvas, and there's a weave of your canvas, and you put a layer on top of there of primer, white primer, several layers, and that's your primer. Okay, can you see that? And as I've been doing in this video, first of all you put your thin washes of colour on, you know, and you seal your drawing on. I paint my drawings on, I do. Okay, and on top of that I put my blacks, so I've got like a good base sort of undercoats on there. So there's my blacks, what I call my blacks if you've seen my previous posts. Okay, and on top of that then I put the underpainting. Okay, so there's an underpainting on there. Now the underpainting I've done on there because I wanted that to be the brightest part of it. I've actually mixed the paint with copal varnish. Now a lot of people are going to frown about this, but I've been using copal varnish for a long time, and Constable used it as well. The conservationists and restorers don't like the idea of a varnish being in it, because when the final varnish goes on a painting and they want to remove it, they're worried about the solvents damaging the varnish that's in the paint. But I've been using for a long time now copal varnish, you know, and I've never had a problem with it. But so what actually happens is you've got your underpainting on there now. So I put the next coats on the top, and I've mixed it with copal varnish. And the theory is, that I think the theory is that pigments become further apart and it lets the light down into them. And it goes down to the underpainting and bounces back in, so the light comes down through. Because I don't know what the photons are like in your part of the world, but in Wales, photons are very small. They get in everywhere. And the light can travel from all different directions underneath, and because the pigments are wider apart. So the copal varnish moves the pigments apart, as a glaze would. Then on top of that again, more layers of glazing medium. I usually mix up my own glazing medium, but today I'm going to use Michael Harding's glazing medium, and a couple of other things as well. Okay, so you can put many layers of glazing on the top, and then you can put a varnish and more glazes on the top. Creates some quite incredible effects that way. So I'll just show you what I do now. Let's go talk about the lighting now. Now the lighting, I can remember reading a book. In fact, I got the book here. I wanted to show you this. This fella called Bern Hogarth, and he's written this book on light and shade. He's written a book on everything. He was a guy that used to do the Tarzan comics that I used to look at when I was a boy. He was from Chicago, I think, although he lives in Los Angeles now. And he's done some very helpful books on lighting, because he had to do Tarzan in the jungle, and of course because he was working in Chicago there's no jungle there, you know, so I was wondering how could he possibly do all these drawings of elephants and things, you know. He built up filing cabinets of clip art, and these old cartoonists that working on these comics, the same as Superman and all those, you know, they got to build up a visual picture of what things look like in their mind, you know. So this one here, it's about minimal light, soft light, single light sources, and he take you all through it, you know. It's complicated, it takes quite a while to get your head around it. But of course, I can't create lighting effects for this painting, and the focal point is here, because this is a painting about what's called precognition. Precognition is it's about the spooky feeling that some people get when they visit in a place where their ancestors might have once lived. And this is Brecon Cathedral up in Wales there, and it's in a book by Barbara Erskine, as I explained earlier. She wrote a book called The Lady of Hay, and it's a story about hypnotic regression, and the focal point of this is when the main character of the book, who gets hypnotically regressed back to the 12th century, 1175 I think the story takes place. And on the gravestones and the plaques, she actually goes back in time as the Lady of Hay. And as she comes back to the story, she gets this funny feeling because she sees the name of her son, Toby, you know, who was a vicar in this old part of the church. This is the original part of the church, you know. So I really wanted the focal point to be centred down on this. So there's a lot of distractions in this, and this is up here, you can't see that up there really when I stood in the church. So I'm going to take that back down, glaze it back down, all these things. And the back of the font as well would be darker than that because of the light source coming down through here. Under the shadow there, I'll be using a violet. Translucent colours now, you want them transparent. You don't want to use anything that's opaque because you want to see what's underneath. Okay, so you mix it up with the glazing medium. Now the colours I'll be using for this, I'll be using a violet, an ultramarine blue, a fantastic colour here, a red umber. It's not as drastic as the raw umber, but it's like it's a good real old master effect. I think it's the kind of colours that Rembrandt must have used. You know, you see it's a lovely, produces a beautiful glaze. You know, back into the building there. You know, a nice warm glaze. And this here is I'll be mixing up like a type of orange with it. This type of red, Napthol red. Yeah. Very, very bright red that is, you know. It's radioactive pigments in it, I think. It is Michael Harding put in there. That's a truly amazing colour. Don't agree with all his colours. Mine, I've just bought one off him. I didn't like it at all. In fact, I can't see any point in it. I'd like to have a chat with him why he actually made it. It's this one. It's called titanium dioxide. Unbleached titanium dioxide. Kills every colour you put it with. Everything that Michael Harding done up to now I think is fantastic, but I don't know what that's for. If anybody wants to know what that's about, let me know. And another two colours here, I've mentioned this colour before, Indian yellow, which I'll be using Indian yellow down here and on the edge of the font, given the light from the light source on the top. Okay, and Indian yellow down here, and maybe a little bit on the front of the dress. And as it comes back around, it's a shade of it. It's got red dioxide in with the Indian yellow, but still a fantastic colour. And as it comes back around the front then, I'll be using the red umber as it comes round, okay? So I'll be getting on with that in a minute, but I need to open the tubes out and I'll mix it a bit up and I'll turn the camera back off. Another little tip before we go, I like to have just an old tin. In this one here I put mineral spirits in there just to wash my brushes in. And I like to have a few other things out, you know, I have my turpentine in that one. Try not to use too much turpentine with your glaze or you might get some dribblers going down with it. And I have some stand oil in that. These are just tops off bottles. And all I do is just break a bit of masking tape off, fold it in half like that, stick it on the back of the lid, tip a bit of copal varnish in there. Shouldn't be using copal varnish at this stage really, but I like to have it just as a bit of security. It's just me, I think. And that just sticks on the tin. and it stops you chasing it around. It's great. You can hold it up then, it's not going to slide off, look, okay? And in that I'm going to add my glazing medium, stand oil and my turps, okay? So I'll be mixing up my little bit of paint in a minute. I'll turn that off now so you're not watching me mixing paint up, and I'll be back now in a second.